Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live from our studios here at Kokomlemle's Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, it's live on Love 99.5 FM and affiliates across the 16 regions of Ghana, including Radio Somali in Wa, Radio Justice in Tamale, and Radio Max in Takrade. You can also download the My Joy Online app from Play Store and App Store to listen live around the world. In this edition, police in Accra are on a manhunt for 3 suspects who shot and killed 34-year-old gym instructor at Tantra Hill Thursday morning. We have details as residents in the neighborhood are gripped with fear.
Ali, the people around who have confidence say, we are safe. But what happened yesterday? No, nothing of that sort has happened. Police did be anyhow.
8 MPs present a draft bill seeking to criminalize LGBTQI plus activities in Ghana, proposing jail terms of up to 10 years for persons who engage in the act. With details, plus the view of some Ghanaians who have been speaking to.
To me personally, it is an evil act. I stress in capital letters.
They always think due to human rights, they are using this advantage to just take things for granted and stuff because they don't know better than God what the bill is bringing on board. And I really support it 100% for that.
I'll also take you to Parliament, where the House prepares to receive a report requesting the House approve the nomination of Kissie Jabing as special prosecutor.
The Honourable Minister for Finance is scheduled to move a motion for the adoption of a media review of the budget statement.
Also, the fate of Health Minister hangs in the balance as a special committee that investigates suspected constitutional and procurement breaches in the Sputnik V vaccine presents report in sports.
As the Tokyo Olympics opening ceremony is ongoing, COVID-19 cases associated with the games are rising rapidly. So how safe is Team Ghana? We'll find out much later in sports. 25 African civil society organizations petition presidents across the continent to increase domestic funding of education as they prepare for next week's Global Education Summit in London.
The conference is to ensure that at least countries are able to restore education funding to pre-COVID levels, if not increase them to the 20% budget benchmark or the 5% GDP benchmark.
And then we build up to the biggest gathering of Ghanaians in the UK, Doubt Ghana Party in the Park. You want to stay for that and more here on the Midday News with me, Emefa Apau. Thanks for your company. This is your home of bold, credible and fearless journalism. A group of lawmakers have introduced a draft bill to Parliament to criminalize same-sex activities in the country. The MPs, as part of the bill, wants a prohibition of any surgical procedure to change gender. The MPs have also asked countries promoting the rights of LGBTQ plus persons to refrain from the use of threat or force against the independence of the state, citing the UN Charter, which recognizes the principal sovereignty of member states. My colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson joins me with more on this. Kwesi, first, walk us through who these anti-LGBTQ lawmakers are.
MFA, we have the Tamale North MP, Alhassan Suhini, the MP for La Dadeko Tupon, Rita Odalisoa. We also have the Cratchit West MP, Helen Intoso, and South Dai MP, Roxy Nelson Dafiamepo. The leader of this team, we are told, is the MP for Ningo Pram, that's Sam George, and also Honorable Della Adjasoa. So these are some of the MPs who are actually sending this bill to Parliament.
And what are some of the things they want the law to actually achieve?
Oh, so if you look at the draft bill, the MPs are saying that a person who commits these offences, and they have listed all the offences here, let me just take you through: sexual intercourse between or among persons of the same sex, sexual intercourse between a man and an animal, or a woman and an animal, or a pansexual activity. Again, they move on to say that a person who marries or purports to marry a person who is of the same sex as that person knowingly marries or purports to marry a person who has undergone gender or sex reassignment, except in the case of a person who has undergone a surgical procedure to correct a biological anomaly, including intersex and others. Again, they say that any person who holds herself as a lesbian, gay, transgender, transsexual, queer, pansexual, an ally. And here, an ally, they say that if you're not a member of the homosexuality community and yet you identify with them, obviously you have to be punished for doing that. And finally, they say that any surgical procedure for sex or gender reassignment or any other procedure that is intended to create a sexual category other than the sexual category of a person assigned at birth. So these are some of the things they want the law to prohibit.
Thankfully, we've been joined by a lead member of the group, Mr. Sam George Ningo Prampram MP. Thank you so much for your time here on the Midday News, sir. So for clarity, this discussion that we're having will later be categorized as a crime.
Well, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to your listeners. I made it clear to your production team that I will not be going into the details of the bill now because this bill is undergoing gazetting. After gazetting, it becomes a public document. Some way, somehow, someone has leaked it to the media, and the media is engaged in all kinds of interpretation. But I believe that the issues that are defined as crime or as offenses in the act are clear. I mean, a conversation or an interview of this nature, I do not believe is a promotion of homosexuality. We are clear in the language that's used in the bill. I've seen all kinds of interpretation being put on there, but I take that as the comical aspect of Ghanaian life. The details and the fine legal details have been properly ironed out. And so we have defined what is promotion, we've defined what is advocacy, and so a radio interview cannot be termed to be advocacy or promotion. So
but even if I
those
speak
who are running ahead of themselves, well,
but if we also speak to persons who are promoting it, for instance, to clarify why they are doing so, it's just for the clarity. That's also under the bill that you're seeking to gazette.
Would multimedia call an armed robber to clarify why he's engaged in armed robbery? Or would you call a prostitute to engage her to clarify why she's engaged in prostitution?
But just also...
No, I need an answer to my question. Would you do that?
Sometimes
if you won't do that, then why would you be granting a platform for clarity on something that the laws of Ghana say are illegal? Except you're promoting illegality.
But I'm sure that you've heard interviews with prostitutes before. That's why we are clarifying. But this issue also about...
Well, the interviews with the prostitutes is not to understand and give them a platform to push their trade. That in itself will be illegal.
How about oral sex?
What about it?
I'm asking if under this bill you led to put it together. What happens to that?
Well, we are clear in the bill. If you read the bill, and I've seen so-called lawyers running above themselves and claiming that they call it a BJ bill and all of that, and claiming that we've criminalized oral sex. Well, it's in there. Read the bill. What we stated is clearly stated in there. If you read Section 6 of the bill, if you read Section 6.2, it's clear. 6.3, we actually define what sexual intercourse is. And so when people say that, and I've seen some lawyers run around and saying that even if you go and see a dentist and he puts something in your mouth, we've defined it as sexual, as a crime. Well, they should read well. In that clause, it says for sexual gratification. I don't know how a dentist putting his tools in your mouth is sexual gratification, except that dentist is getting sexual gratification from that. Then that would be illegal. That would actually be a violation of you. So, I mean, I don't get the point people are trying to write home. But like I said, read Section 6 of the law. It is clear. 6.3 would deal with the questions you're asking.
But how about the talk and the concern about infringement on the fundamental human rights of Ghanaians?
Let's be clear, Mefa, homosexuality is not a fundamental human right. Show me anywhere in the 1992 Constitution where it says that a sexual preference is a fundamental human right.
But
the laws of Ghana are clear. I challenge anybody, any lawyer in this country, to show me where in the 1992 Constitution it says that sexual preferences are a fundamental human right. Homosexuality is a sexual preference. It is not a fundamental human right. And that is why this law, for the first time, in Section 5 and Section 22 of the bill we have put before Parliament, are actually criminalizing for the first time actions of violence against persons. We call it extrajudicial treatment. If you read Section 22 of the bill, we actually that section is titled Prohibition of Extrajudicial Treatment. This is the first time you have a law that actually even prohibits verbal assault of persons accused of homosexuality. Section 5 is a duty to report and imposes a legal duty on every Ghanaian to report alleged acts of homosexuality and not take the law into their own hands. So when people talk about fundamental human rights, the fundamental human right of anybody accused of being engaged in homosexuality is a right to a free trial. That is what we are enshrining in this bill, and we are prohibiting anybody from exacting extrajudicial justice from them. That is the fundamental human right, a right to free trial.
But to the extent that you're also preventing us
there's no fundamental right on sexual preference.
Okay, but to the extent that you will also be preventing people from using their social media accounts to also talk about this in any form, also they could be jailed for it. It appears that you're trying to curtail all rights when it comes to this particular issue.
Advocacy but for anything that is illegal is illegal. Mm-hmm. Would you use your social media handle to advocate for terrorism? Would you use your social media handle to advocate for money laundering?
So you're likening this to terrorism?
Would you use your social media handle to advocate for armed robbery? You are not doing that not because maybe you have anything particularly against it. You won't do that because the law prohibits it. And that is why if you take our Criminal Offences Act, apart from the offences listed in there, we have what we call inchoate offences. These inchoate offences in law are offences that are used. So that's why when you see they charge someone for robbery, they will say aiding and abetting. Someone else could be charged for aiding and abetting. The person may not necessarily have taken part in the action itself. So when you carry out an activity that is in support of an illegal act, you are breaching the law. And that's what I've said to you, that because the law finds terrorism, which some other people define as holy jihad and do not see anything wrong with it, but because our laws found on their religious belief of jihad in the way they define it, we found on it, and you would not support that because you deem it an unlawful offense because the law so deem it.
Okay.
If the laws deem a natural carnal knowledge as an unlawful offense, why do you want to be a promoter of it?
So what are the timelines? When will this become a law? How soon are we seeing everything happen?
Oh no, the processes are clear. When it comes back from the government printing press after the gazetting period, which is 14 working days, which should be sometime in the first week of August, it will be tabled before the House. The Speaker will refer it to the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. We will have a public hearing. We're not going to do anything in secrecy. Anybody who says they have any issues with the bill will be welcome to come and present a paper. And the committee would sit on it, do its report. It will go through the 3 full reading stages. We're not taking it under a certificate of urgency. It will go through the full reading processes, 3 stages of legislative processes in Parliament on the floor. The debates will be held. Amendments will be filed. They will be debated. If it is carried, it will be included in there. And then eventually, Parliament, I believe before the end of this year, will pass this into law and send it to the President for presidential assent. And I believe that the President, who has just early this year, at the swearing in of the ordination of the Anglican head, the head of the Anglican Church in Ghana, said that homosexuality will never be legalized under his watch, will keep to his word and give presidential assent.
Okay, we're grateful. That's the Ningo Pram MP, Samuel George. There, we also have been sampling your views on this particular issue. In the meantime, also, this is generating a lot of talk on myjoyonline.com. You'd want to read more for yourself. But let's hear some of your views also.
You know, we are African, and wherever you are, you have to abide by the culture of the people. And as African, we don't believe in what? In a foreign culture. If the foreigners want to go by that, that's fine with them. But Africa, I think it will be very bad for somebody to engage in such a attack. They are representing us in Parliament. So what the mass agree on, that's what they should go by it. So what the masses are saying, I think that's the right thing we should do.
With the new bill that will be being passed, I think it's in the right direction. Because looking at the purpose for this bill, it will ensure that such practice is condoned, and not only that, offenders are also punished for that act. To me personally, it is an evil act. Unreservedly, it is an evil act. I stress in capital letters. So with the new law which is being, when it is passed, and I pray that it is passed as early as possible, when that act is being passed, all Ghanaians will support it and ensure that its implementation is done to the fullest.
It's something that I really support it, because this gay and lesbianism issue, it's really bringing problem in Ghana, because they always think due to human rights, they are using this advantage to just take things for granted and stuff, because they don't know better than God. God created man and he gave woman to it, as in they should have fun due to what, how, and what they want to do. So you can't tell God you know better than God.
Some of your views there on this particular bill that's been put together by these MPs on LGBTQ plus I activities in the country. I'll take you back to Parliament, and Majority Leader Chairman Sabunsu has confirmed Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta will be in Parliament next week Thursday to present a mid-year budget review. He's urging all MPs to participate in the event. Meanwhile, a motion for parliamentary investigation into the evasion of Parliament by the military on the dawn of 7th January is also scheduled for next week. But let me bring in Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, who's been monitoring all this for us in Parliament. Joseph, what's the majority leader saying about, let's start off with the probe on the military invasion of the dawn of 7th January in Parliament?
You know, a number of MPs, including Mahama Yarega and the minority leader, have filed a motion in the House asking that the House sets up a committee to probe this particular issue.
On Thursday, the 29th of July 2021, the Honourable Minister for Finance is scheduled to move a motion for the adoption of a mid-year review of the budget statement and economic policy for the 2021 financial year, and also the supplementary estimate for the 2021 financial year. Speaker, all honourable members are entreated to avail themselves plenary for this crucial business.
So, and that's the business of the House as put out by the majority leader, Osei Chairman Sabunsu. Well, Joseph, there's also a talk about this particular probe on the floor of Parliament. This has been talked about. Let us into it. It appears we've just lost Joseph Opoku-Gakpo there on the line, but Special Prosecutor nominee Kisi Ejabing is likely to get the approval of Parliament as the chairman of the Appointments Committee makes the request on the floor. The nominee received a unanimous endorsement from the committee after almost 5 hours of vetting. First Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jose Usu, who is chairman of the Appointments Committee, is expected to lay the report recommending adoption and approval of the nominee.
For the House to determine approval or disapproval of recommendation.
Did he answer the questions to your expectations as far as today's session is concerned?
What were your own observations? My observation, my committee view is simply to recommend the House to approve the nomination or not. As to how other people value or view his answers, I'd rather leave it to them. I just stay within the rules and just make recommendations to the House.
We know you met in camera soon after. Has he been recommended by the committee for the necessary approval?
Yes, the committee unanimously agreed to recommend him to the House for approval.
That's chairman of the Appointments Committee of Parliament, Jose Usu. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us back on the line. Joseph, is the report ready on the floor?
Not yet. It's rather likely that this will happen sometime around Tuesday next week, when the committee will then go ahead and put together the report and present to the plenary.
Well, we're expecting another report also. That's the Afenyo Markin-led committee that probed the contract for the purchase of Sputnik V vaccines. What's the latest on it?
The committee, from what we gather, has actually now retired to put together the report. They have a deadline of next week, Friday, to present the report, and we know that the House is actually taking its break in the next 2 weeks after the Finance Minister presents the mid-year budget review. And the indication we're getting is that these are all items that the House would deal with before it goes on its break in the next 2 weeks.
That's parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo. Now, this afternoon, police in the Greater Accra region are on a manhunt for 3 suspects who were involved in the killing of a 34-year-old man at Tantra Hill Thursday morning. The deceased, Stephen Akowia, was a gym instructor. He was shot in his apartment around 1 a.m. A woman who was with him at the time was, however, spared, while other tenants in the house were attacked and robbed of their belongings. Listen to one of the tenants who spoke to Joy News on condition of anonymity.
Since I said, I said that the guy opposite me, okay. So I'm not being thinking because we hear the phone to for a cry. It is here, I feel as I'm talking to you. Yeah, you mean to pay the go face here. Obiako, I come me. Mr. Biam could you ever again? Mushiano, or go to say, oh, so, and yet, or a babysitter.
and yes, I'm going to quarter that. So seriously speaking, we know it won't happen again, but about you, yeah, about you.
Police neighbor could be
yes, at least Obia back with me to patrol the area. At least in a week, say twice or thrice, it will be better. So it will lead at least the people around will have confidence. Say, we are safe. But what happened yesterday? No, nothing of that sort has happened. Police did be anyhow. I think for at the end two here, but almost more areas grassroots here. And I'm going to no more here.
That's a tenant there interacting with my colleague Manuel Cranting. He's been in the area all morning. Joins us with more. Manuel, what more have you picked up regarding this incident?
Well, so MFR, the mood in the area is generally that of shock and fear. In fact, the house where the deceased lived, in fact, where he was shot, has been dejected. We saw just 2 tenants out of the 7 families actually lived in the house. And all of them are expressing fear. They say they are scared that they may be the next target in the area. And they want police to, increase protection and visibility in the area also, MFR.
Well, have we heard any official statement of a sort from the police on this?
Well, beyond the indication that the police had begun investigation into yesterday, there's not been any official statement just yet. My sources at the police, however, tell me that police have stepped up its visibility in the area to provide more protection there. The problem, however, is that this may not be sustainable as they have just 1 vehicle in the entire police station at Mile 7 to patrol the area. And so they may just withdraw. But for now, they've stepped up security and are hoping to track down the perpetrators.
That's my colleague Manuel Cranting. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. We've been talking about that incident. The suspects, up to 3 persons or suspects are being hunted for by the police after they killed or suspected to have killed a 34-year-old gym instructor at Tantra Hill Thursday morning. We've also been talking about 8 MPs presenting draft bill seeking to criminalize LGBTQ plus activities in Ghana, proposing jail terms of up to 10 years for persons who engage in the act. When we return from the break, we have sports and then also 25 civil or African civil society organizations petition presidents across the continent to increase domestic funding of education as they prepare for next week's Global Education Summit in London.
The conference is to ensure that at least countries are able to restore education funding to pre-COVID levels, if not increase them to the 20% budget benchmark or the 5% GDP benchmark.
And we're getting ready for the biggest gathering of Ghanaians in the UK, Ghana Party in the Park.
Yo, what's up, guys? This is your boy Kofi Jamal, and Charlie, we still out here, the Ghana Party in the Park, and we prepping for the show, the rehearsals and all. Charlie, I'm fully ready and fully packed for the show. In charge, you know what's up. Let's catch up straight.
This bulletin is live in the Volta region on Jubilee Radio Keta, Volta Premier and Kekali Radio in Ho, Lolonyo FM in Hohoi, Pando FM in Pando, Fafa Radio in Joje, Radio Hogba in Angloga, Klenam Radio Bato, Victory FM Aplao. In the Eastern region, we're on K Poly Radio in Kofrodia. In the Northern region, we're on Bishara Radio, Radio 123 and Radio Justice in Tamale. And in Savannah region, we're on Inkelege FM in Bole. In the Upper East region, we're live on A1 Radio and Dreams FM in Bogatanga and Radio Fumbese in Fumbese. In Upper West, we're live on Radio Sonmale in Wa, Radio Freed in Nandom, Radio Wa in Wa, and Bolu FM in Bolu. In the Bono East region, we're on Gaskia FM in Techiman. In Bono region, we're on Sky FM and Parrot FM in Sunyai. Central region, we're live on ATL FM in Cape Coast. And in the Western region, we're on Radio Max in Takrady.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time for sports.
Yes, MFI, and as the opening ceremony of the Tokyo Olympic Games is going on, more than 11,300 athletes from 207 nations will compete in the next couple of weeks, all vying to get their hands on the medal they've worked for so long. However, COVID-19 is at work and is likely to put the games in disarray. Almost 2,000 infections have been reported in Tokyo, the city in which the games are being held, and still remains under a state of emergency. This morning, 19 new cases have been reported, bringing the total number of cases to 106. By Director General of the National Sports Authority, Professor Peter Chumesi, who is part of government's contingents in Japan, says there is no cause for alarm.
despite the
Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, by God's grace, the games are ongoing. Every qualified country is present, including Ghana.
Ghana so Nyakopon Adaruma, yes, your team and so Ababidru your athletes are, especially the athletics athletes.
All our athletes, including sprinters who camped in the United States, have arrived, so we have a full team. Everything is going on very well. We will meet with the athletes later and give them some words of encouragement.
Athletes in also be share against village or Numa Kakrabia, Yefa, so number designs and some kind.
Elsewhere in England, and Manchester United have completed the signing of Jadon Sancho for £73 million. He was unveiled about 30 minutes ago. MFA.
Thank you very much, Mibarak. From sports, let's turn our attention to education. And 25 African civil society organizations petitioned presidents across the continent to increase domestic funding of education as they prepare for next week's Global Education Summit in London. Global education financing benchmarks require that 5% of GDP and a minimum of 20% of national budgets are committed to education, but Ghana allocated just 13.6 billion Ghana cedis last year, which represents just 16% of total national budget. The coalition led by the African Education Watch warned President Akufo-Addo and his counterparts across the continent to commit increased allocations to the sector. Thankfully, Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch, Ekofie Sare, joins us on the line. So we're grateful for your time, sir. So you just presented this petition to the president. What exactly is prompting this push for increased local funding?
Good afternoon to your cherished audience. As we navigate our economies within COVID, we appreciate that nations are going through austerity and there have been several cuts to social sector budgets. The challenge is that prior to COVID, 2/3 of the world's out-of-school children were in Africa. And so COVID only came to Spain as we are most hit by the pandemic. So the challenge is that we need to engage political authorities on the continent to ensure that as we struggle with the revenue shortfalls occasioned by COVID, we do not deny the children an opportunity to re-enter school. For that matter, the need for renewed political commitment by these leaders to committing at least 20% of national budget and up to 6% of their GDP to finance the levels that will be able to ensure that every child of school women is able to enroll and complete the full course of basic.
Unfortunately, Mr. Kofi, we have a terrible connection to you. That's the Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch. Apologies for that, but this discussion will continue on the Pulse and all the other channels. We'll get more on this. But building a world-class company from a developing country like Ghana has always been a tall order. Lack of established structures, cronyism and regulatory slippages all combined to clip the wings of such attempt. Well, according to the board chairman of the United Bank for Africa, Kweku Awotwe, one requires dynamic and exceptional leadership skills to do what has eluded most industries. He's however convinced business mogul Sam Jonah exhibited these traits when he was at the helm of affairs at the Ashanti Goldfields Corporation, now Anglo Gold Ashanti.
We would get through this. Sam came into Ashanti and revolutionized the company. He really broke some of the barriers that existed between the foreigners and the locals. He really empowered our local workforce. He provided training. He sent them out. He really changed the face of Ashanti and in a way that had never been done before. He was a very young man. He was in his 30s, but he had grown up with a mining culture. So what I would say about Sam, he had passion for his business. He believed in his business. He believed in the transformative power of the business, and he delivered.
That's Kweku Awotwe there speaking in our Ghana's Great series. Let me take you to the UK now, and the biggest entertainment program for Ghanaians in the UK and Europe is just a day away. The annual event, first held in 2005, is an open-air event which is characterized by activities such as music, dance, fashion show, and a food fair. And Joy Entertainment, Doreen Avio, is large and in charge from London. Doreen, all is set for tomorrow, right?
All is set for tomorrow, MFR, and I can tell you that we are really excited. In fact, today is a sunny day. We've all been able to come out, have a feel of the place already. And I can tell you that all the artists are excited. They are all geared up. You know, some of them have already been in the UK for the first time, or some of them are now coming to the UK for the first time. Others have already been here, and I can tell you that the likes of Yao Tog, Kofi Jamal, Flag, Kamido, they are all excited and they are all ready to give out a great show tomorrow here in London.
And once Dorian Avio is there, everything will be fine. Thank you so much for your time. And if Raymond Nakwa is excited about this, then you know that it definitely will be a party in the park. And that's how we wrap up this afternoon's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM on myjoyonline.com. Stories making the headlines. Radio Magistrate Court convicts 7 for impersonation in 2020 WASI anti-LGBTQI plus bill. Corporate sympathizers could face 10-year jail term. Social media reacts. And then also Education Ministry fights off claims it misapplied 19 million CDs allocated to free SHS Secretariat. Also, there's a live stream. Kojo Nkrumah hands over medical theatre to Brenase, amongst others, on myjoyonline.com. Thanks so much for your company on behalf of the entire team. I am MF Papa. We have Living Word with Pastor Mensel Tabil. What are you running for? Tuesday.